Hi and welcome to Simply Ballers 2024-2025 season previews. It's that time of the year where for the next 30 days I'll be releasing a season preview for each team. In each preview there will be a quick season and off-season recap. Then following that we'll be looking at what's in store for each team. We'll be looking at some of the key questions that they have, some of the positives, some of the negatives. It will be digging deeper in some of those areas. And at the end there are some final thoughts with prediction of the standings, their floor, their ceiling, some of the playoff chances, and some other fun predictions. So today we're going for the Chicago Bulls, and this was another mid-year for the Bulls. And I tweeted something earlier this year where since 2022 they have a 0.03 net rating. They have scored 24,106 points and they allowed 24,100 points. So they only scored 6 more points than the opponent in these 2 years. And they literally been the definition of mediocre, mid-average. They finished the season in the exactly same way 2 years in a row, and that was they lost in a play-in to the Miami Heat, and that's literally been their season. They had a good collection of talent with DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, Alex Caruso, Kobe White, and Nikola Vucevic, but with some health issues, especially with Lonzo Ball and others, they just couldn't do anything. They could not get over the hump to even make the playoffs. And what's worse is they've been losing their minutes a lot more when all of the top 3 players were playing. With DeRozan, Vucevic and White on, they were minus 4.8 with a 114.2 offensive rating. Out of 9 players that had at least 1,000 minutes played, only Javon Carter had at least a +1 net rating. Add Caruso and Drummond as the only positive players. So this was a bad team from top to bottom. It did not matter if they were healthy and they were playing. They were just bad on both ends of the floor, especially on the defensive end. Everything about their season just felt worse this year. At least last year they had they had something to go on, which was their defense. They had the 5th best defense that helped them a lot, but they dropped to 22nd this year. And dropping on the defensive end without having the offensive talent is why they were so mid throughout the whole season. But we finally won't have to deal with that kind of seasons anymore. Hopefully, unless the management still wants to win games, because that's literally what they said this past week. But they still made a decision to let go of this core, let go of this build. They traded DeMar DeRozan, they traded Alex Caruso, and they're finally looking to embrace the young rebuild. This was way too late. I'm not sure why Alex Caruso and DeMar DeRozan finished the season. They were definitely suited for Alex Caruso at some point in the season. He should have been gone by the deadline. You obviously need someone else, another team to want the players that you were trading. That's why I can see the case of not trading LaVine, not trading Vucevic, or even DeMar at some point. But they finally did it. They finally, even if it's too late, they still ended up pushing. They still ended up accepting that it's time to just move on. And they still didn't even get the right package for that. A good enough package for those players. Once upon a time, Caruso was reported going for multiple multiple picks, and they ended up getting Josh Giddey for him without getting any picks from Sam Presti. They had so many picks to offer, and they couldn't get a single one. It's still a young player who fits the timeline, but it's still disappointing to see a impactful player like Caruso just not getting you a single first round pick. Then they also traded DeMar DeRozan, which was a sign and trade, and they just had to get what they could get, and they ended up getting Chris Duarte, who's 27, heading to his 4th season. They did get picks, but it's only 2 seconds. Again, that's just bad asset management. Those players should have been gone. At least they should have got a much better offer than what they did. So their off-season included obviously moving on with the 2 vets for minimal assets. It was drafting Matas Buzelis with the 11th overall pick, signing Jalen Smith, bringing back Torrey Craig and extending Patrick Williams, and unfortunately there's still no answer to what they should do or what they can do with Vucevic and LaVine. They're still left in a kind of a hole, in a place where they're not sure if they can move on from the vets. That's why their off-season was good. It's good that they finally made a decision, but it's not at a place where they should be happy about it. What's in store for the Bulls then? The first question is, can they actually move on from both LaVine and Vucevic, or will they be stuck with them? Should they even trade them at this point? Because they're going to be bad regardless. They're going to be playing, they're going to be bad. They're not going to be playing, they will be bad. At least now that at least some of the play from them will help some of the others, just making things easier. There's also the case of just rebuilding trade values. Zach LaVine and Vucevic are negative players, considering their contracts, their health, and where they are at the point of their career. So playing them and hoping that they can bounce back is that's needed. They need them to bounce back to be able to trade them. Will they be bad enough to keep their pick because it's stopped and protected? Their management says they want to win as many games as possible. That could happen. With how the East is so bad, it could end up with them making a play-in, and it's a 2-game sample where they could make the playoffs and they could lose out on their pick. What is Giddey going to look like in a completely new environment with different expectations, with different teammates? That's going to be the biggest one. That is the player they traded Caruso for, and he does fit the timeline. There is still a lot of potential for him. So that's going to be one of the biggest questions as well. Is Kobe White's jump here to stay, and where can he go next? He was one of the players that broke out for them last year. That's part of their core. What else can he do? What gear can he step into this year as well, especially with different situation, different context of the team, as well as Ayo Dosunmu. How is that duo going to look like? Them being the focal point of the offense, of the defense as well. Will Williams play up to his extension? His career has so far been a bit disappointing, underwhelming. So can he bounce back? Can he prove that he is worth getting that extension? Then there's the Buzelli's rookie season. Again, it's prioritizing young players. It's just looking at development and seeing what potential each of those young players have. And finally, will Lonzo Ball finally play some basketball? That's it. It's not even will he bounce back to what he was doing in his healthy season. It's can he just play a single minute of basketball in 2024? So the first order of business is figuring out what happens with both LaVine and Vucevic, because they need to go. I did say they would be pretty bad with them on regardless, but they still are impactful players. They are still NBA level players that can and probably will make the team better, but they can't be better. And with the East being so bad already, if they have NBA players, Wizards don't have NBA players. That's already being better than them. And they can't afford to be better than the Wizards, the Pistons, the Hornets, Blazers, Spurs, Raptors, Nets, Jazz. There are so many teams that have much worse NBA talent on their team that will likely be worse than the Bulls. They can't afford that. They need to be worse than pretty bad teams. And having both Vucevic and LaVine will certainly help them be better. But then, how do you trade them if right now the values are the lowest? They need to be playing. They need to have that bounce back season to see that they can be traded. They can be impactful elsewhere. Because without it, they're just stuck on a team making a lot of money. And what do you do with them after? Because they're still on a pretty lengthy extensions. You'll be stuck with them, you'll be paying them, and they won't be helping the team either in the short term or the long term. So the first question will be about Giddey. He's the newest player on this team. He's already shown quite a lot as a young player. He has got the potential. He's 21 years old, who has improved in each season. I've gone through the trade when it happened and see what he can bring to the team. He's still a young player that can improve. He's already one of the best passers in the league. He may not be ready for a team that's looking to contend like the Oklahoma City Thunder, but that's just the Thunder making them just getting better to the point where they can't rely on young players to develop it. But that's not going to be a problem for the Bulls, and he has already shown many improvements so far in his career. His efficiency has improved each year. It went from 48% true shooting in his rookie season to 53% to 55% in these 3 seasons. That same goes with his 2-point shooting and 3-point shooting. All aspects of this game has improved one way or the other. And although he's definitely not a shooter, and that's been one of his holes, his flaws in his game that stopped him getting minutes in the playoffs, he's still able to get to the rim consistently. This year, over 37% of his shots came at the rim. He's only shooting 61%. and that's still a good skill. He can get to the rim, he can create shots when it comes to driving and off the dribble. If you take Shai Gilgeous Shai off the court from him, that improves to 42%. So he can get to the rim as the primary ball handler. You can also see his impact metrics also improving each year, especially on the offensive end. He was a clear negative in his rookie season, and he was a clear plus this year. Everything has been improving so far in his career. So there are signs and encouraging evidence to know that he can play in a different role on a young team. Same thing here. He had a 15-game stretch from March 10th to April 7th, where he was averaging 17 points, 8 rebounds, 6 assists on 60% true shooting. So there are flashes and promises, and that's the thing that Bulls should hope for. They should just bank on him just developing more. It's going to be a completely different situation for him, and it could go either way right now with him. The next young player that they should watch out for is obviously White. It's first seeing how that backcourt will look like, because you do want to have Kobe White with the ball, but then you also need Giddey to have the ball more in his hands to be effective. I wonder what that split is going to look like. Will they prioritize getting Giddey the touches, or will they prioritize developing White after the flashes he has shown? That's going to be something they have to figure out, but it can look good. Giddey has shown that he can be a reliable ball handler. He has worked with Shai as well, and that's the first question when it comes to just seeing what the backcourt will look like. There's also a Dosunmu in that equation as well. It's having 3 of those guards and seeing how all 3 of them can work with one another. Because White also had himself a season that got him second place in the most improved player voting. He doubled his attempts. He remained just as efficient with more usage. He had a 57% true shooting with 23% usage. He upped his assist percentage from 16 to 21. He remained a 37% shooter on over 9 threes per 100 possession. And that's good. You want to see players up the touches, up the usage, up the responsibility, and still remaining as efficient as they were in their previous role. If they can maintain that, that's obviously a great sign to see. He also had plenty of jumps in other areas. He scored 0.89 points per possession with 49 percentage effective field goal on 1.7 pick and rolls last year, and that jumped to 0.93 with 51% effective field goal on 6.1 possessions in a pick and roll. That's a significant jump in volume. His frequency almost doubled, and his efficiency again increased as well. And one encouraging stat is also that his shooting foul frequency jumped from 6% to 10% in the pick and roll. So he's getting efficient looks. He's improving his efficiency only slightly. But again, at that volume, with that increase in volume, where it went from almost 2 to over 6, he almost tripled his volume and got better efficiency-wise. His three-point shooting is also encouraging. He shot 36% on over 5 catch-and-shoot threes. He also had a significant jump in off the dribble shooting, where he shot 27% on just 1 attempt on pull-up twos. That jumped to 40% this year. So he has been improving in so many areas, especially as a shooter. On the other hand, I do wonder how much of that jump is simply with him getting more shots. He already did a good job at maintaining that efficiency, obviously, and improving as an off-dribble shooter. But can he continue to do that with the defense now adjusting to him? Because one of the reasons I think his jump was this significant was because of the three-point shooting. In his first 40 games, he had a 56% effective field goal and 59% true shooting, but that dropped to 51 and 55 in his last 39 games. And the difference was, to start the season, he shot 41% from 3, and that cooled down to 34% to end the season. So his impact is heavily reliant on that three-point shooting. So the biggest question will be, can he maintain that three-point shooting off the dribble? Can he be less reliant on that? Because he's not a great finisher. He doesn't get to the rim at an elite level. He doesn't finish around the mid-range well either. So if he's not shooting 40% from 3, where else is he having that kind of impact? And that's going to be the biggest question for Kobe White this year. When it comes to Patrick Williams, the first question is, can he just stay healthy? Can he actually play basketball? Because he played 71 games in his rookie season, but then he followed that with 17. He played all 82 games the season after, while he followed that with 43 this year. That consistency needs to be better. He can't just take a season off basically after having played 71 and 82 games previously, because right now that's the biggest issue. He just can't stay on the floor, and that affects his development, because if you're having gaps like that, you obviously can't get better. You obviously just have you have to rehab, you have to just get back into shape, and that will affect him just developing the skills that he needs. Because right now he's a career 41% 3-point shooter, but it's still on extremely low volume. That doesn't make a significant difference. He's not one to be a passer either, with his career high assist percentage being 8. And that's also to go along with a 30% turnover. Even more worrying, he also had his career low 2-point percentage, which also coincided with his career low true shooting percentage. And that all has to do with him shooting 55% at the rim. So what even is Patrick Williams at this point? He's a okay 3-point shooter at a very low volume that makes no difference at all, and he just can't finish anywhere else on the court. So there are still a lot of questions for him beyond the 3-point beyond the health concerns. He needs to improve so many things, but he's already going into his 5th year, and it has looked like it's trending downwards. So there's a lot of questions for him right now. But finally, the most exciting news will be about Lonzo Ball. There have been reports that he may play at some point this season, and that's great. He's been injured for the last 2 seasons, and right now I don't know what it's going to look like, but it doesn't matter. As long as he's probably going to be healthy and playing, that will already be a good sign for him going forward. And then there's also the rookie Buzelis, a 6'9" forward. We're looking at the draft and see what the experts say. Sam Vecini talked about his 2 swing areas that will just be a big part in his upside, and that's his frame and shooting. He mentioned that he probably doesn't think he'll play many minutes because of it, but with the Bulls needing to tank and just prioritizing young players, I don't see a reason why Buzelis shouldn't just get all of the minutes and give him all the development reps that he needs. So, to some predictions. 25-30 wins. I think that's a good range for the Bulls. Their floor, which is the worst case scenario, it's bad, like pretty bad, but not worse than this Wizards. I can see them being around the 13th, 12th, 14th range in the East. Ceiling is playing, but this would actually be the worst possible scenario. I don't need them to win. They don't need them to win. A play-in would be the worst possible scenario, because if they win and they don't get that 10th pick, then this whole season just was for nothing. I do see both Vucevic and Levine being traded at some point, although I'm not sure what the package could be that I get for them. I'm not sure even what the value is at this point. Maybe Zach Levine will have a bounce back season and he looks to prove everyone wrong, and there will be a market for him. But then again, the contract is more of an issue for him than his playing health. So that's going to make the whole situation worse by just looking to trade for him. Vucevic, I think he will be on an expiring soon, but his play is just so bad. He's one of the worst 3-point shooters at an okay volume. He's an awful defender. He's not going to be helping any good team. There is no good team that will want Vucevic. There is no team that's looking to make a push in the playoffs that will see and think we want Vucevic. But then again, he's almost on an expiring, so I can't see the Bulls just keeping him, and maybe they get a better package for him next year. But that's just two trades that won't make a big difference for them this year. This year is all about the development and hopefully losing. It's just prioritizing the young players, is seeing what Giddey will bring. I'm still a believer in Giddey. I do think a different setting, different coach, and a different teammate with different expectation will help him a lot. He did look much better in the FIBA with more confidence, so I can see a maybe potential most improved run if things fall right. With White, I do wonder how much of his success was with just getting more touches, so I'm not expecting another big jump because he was already in this kind of role. I don't see Demar going away. Don't see Caruso going away. Just helping him. Period. He was already in that role where he was taking the shots. He was already running the pick and rolls. Right now, he just needs to show that he's not entirely reliant on that 3-point shooting. He's already shown he's a capable ball handler at a good efficiency. So there's that. We're already at the point where he can run an offense with more touches and be efficient doing so. But does he have skills elsewhere to just continue to improve and to be at least in a clear starter, maybe an all-star caliber guard? Overall, this team is going to be bad because even if they continue to play Vucevic, I think that makes them even worse. There was a fun stat where Vucevic without Caruso, they had a 122 defensive rating in over 1,000 minutes. Caruso had a big impact for them. So losing him alone will make them significantly worse, especially on the defensive end. I'm not expecting this team to defend at all. They have, with Kobe White, with Giddey, with Vucevic, and anyone else, there is no one that can make a difference defensively, and that alone will probably make them one of the worst teams in the league. Because of that, and the fact that I don't see the offense improving, they're going to be one of the worst teams, and they just hope they can bank on the development and get a good pick in the draft.